Hello, thank you for watching. So I will show you the use of Wrapstyler to cover a motorbike seat. Let's try with an empty project with a default model and import directly the model of the seat. This is a scanned model, as you can see, with a texture, which is a very nice model that will be done with a special scanner that can scan the texture. So to write with Wrapstyler for this kind of object is very interesting to try to create symmetrical object, and we are only going to work for the seam on half of the seat. That will be easier to create symmetrical seams. Let's check that it's perfectly aligned. If not, there is a special tool to let you align better the seat. We can use, for example, this feature to turn slightly the seat to have a nice alignment of this line. You can see this line of the scan here. So once the seat is completely aligned, we are going to create a central cutting line here. You can see here, this is a plan to cut the line. We can move this plan directly, or we can put here, for example, in the middle of the object and apply to create a special cutting line. Then we are going quickly to draw the seams on this seat, reducing a bit the light, and going to draw maybe the most important line is the cutting line outside here, the limitation of the covering here. So we can see the drawing of the line is very easy, and I just continue until the central line here. I continue with, oops, sorry, mouse is quite fast mouse. Continue with this line. And with this other line, I create here and finally this line also is important to place. In case you want to adjust the position and orientation of the line, no problem, there's a special feature. It's very easy to move a point or a line orientation. For example, if you want to, I forgot this line, I can now adjust add this line too. And save here the first step of the motorbike. Let's call it moto seat. So now the drawing of the curve is finished, and we can hide this palette and cut directly all the surface along this line using here special cutting tool, which quickly cut the mesh directly So you can see the texture is now not very clean and not very usable. We can here with a special tool remove all the texture. This object is not more useful. We can delete this part. Maybe if there is some very small little parts here, we can remove this part. So you can see now our seat is very clean. Maybe it's not cut here. Probably I missed to follow the line until the end. Let's go back to correct this. I just go back to the initial, and you can see here when I drew the curve I missed to connect here, so it's better to go back and correct this at first. We can also change the name here. For example, let's call it Motoseat, and cut it again here. Now it's done, so let's remove the texture and also sorry, I have some problem too. Okay, and you can see now this is the original part on which we draw the curves, and we have the result of the various parts after the cutting. Now let's create a mirror with these parts, very fast and easy. It's very easy to check. So we have now mirroring parts. We can merge these parts to finish the merge this and this. We can now create the pattern here. Just select all the parts to flatten. Here we launch the flattening algorithm. And now we have all the pattern here, ready to cut. After the cutting, we are going to add also the assembly that let the software place automatically all the notches on the seams. So we have here a special tool that creates the assembly and the notches for all the place here. So it creates special also the similar ones for the various place, and you can see he adds some various seam value which are different outside here on the border or inside between two parts. It's a very nice feature that lets you adjust automatically the seam allowance according to the place is. So we can add, this is a previous one, we can import here all the elements for the notice, assembly notice. We can maybe turn this, orientation is not perfect, and maybe this. We can place and eventually we can also add a nice 3D image on with some names. For example, we can see the name, we can show, sorry, the name of the part on the 3D view. Maybe rename this because it changed the name after the merge of the various parts. So and add a nice 3D image of, I just capture the image and oops, we can add maybe a special 3D view. Let's show also all the assembly to see the, you can see here all the notches. Let's capture this and I can add this. So we just have to export the result. For example, for the cutting, we can use a special page with this symbol and import all the pattern and export here the cutting directly for the cutting machine with all the proper parameters. We can also use a PDF file format if necessary. So exporting here. You can see here the PDF ready to cut if you have a cutting machine that prefer to use PDF file format for the cutting. And we can also export the assembly notice to help the user assemble the various parts of the seat. So here it is. Here is the notice ready to cut. So thank you for watching and see you in a proximate new video. Goodbye.